Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a truly fascinating and honestly kind of alarming piece of psychiatric science. We're going to explore exactly why we are just terrible judges of our own exhaustion. You know, if you've ever found yourself running on absolute fumes but swearing to everyone around you that you feel completely fine, yeah, this one is for you. We'll be breaking down the insights of psychiatrist Dr. Zion Kabasawa, exploring why our brains basically trick us into pushing past our limits, and more importantly, how we can actually stop doing it.
So let's start with a crucial question that really strikes at the heart of our crazy, busy lives. Do you really know if you're pushing yourself too hard? I mean, it sounds like a simple question, right? You're probably thinking, well, yeah, of course I know. I can feel when I'm tired. But as we're about to see through the medical evidence, relying on that subjective feeling of just being okay is actually a massive trap.
Section 1. Are you noticing your fatigue? To frame this issue, Dr. Kabasawa shares this highly relatable dilemma from a 27-year-old woman who reached out to him. She tries to maintain this work hard, play hard lifestyle. When she works, she goes all out. When she plays, she goes all out. But she struggles immensely to recognize when it's simply time to just stop and rest. She's constantly asking herself, can I keep going or should I just head home? But she can never quite find the correct answer until it's literally too late and she just crashes. And that brings us to the core thesis of Dr. Kabasawa's work. He points out a fascinating and frankly dangerous paradox. Accurately judging our own limits is incredibly difficult. We tend to assume that fatigue is like a fuel gauge in a car. When it gets low, a bright red light flashes in our brain to warn us. But the psychiatric reality is that this internal gauge is fundamentally broken. Actually, the more depleted you get, the more broken the gauge becomes.
Section 2. The mechanism of misjudging fatigue.
So, to understand why this happens, we have to look at the medical reality behind our broken internal gauges. And research reveals a pretty startling reality about human psychology here. Studies on sleep deprivation show that the more sleep-deprived a person is, the more likely they are to insist that they are completely fine. A person suffering from severe sleep deprivation, getting maybe just 4 hours of sleep a night, will often look you dead in the eye and say, "I'm getting plenty of rest. I'm doing great." It is a total disconnect. The worse their condition gets objectively, the more their subjective self-awareness just plummets. They literally lose the cognitive ability to even recognize their own exhaustion.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is that recognizing your own poor condition is actually a hallmark of being healthy, not weak. When you can wake up, scan your body and mind, and accurately say, wow, I am in really bad shape today, I need to take it easy, that means your internal monitoring system is functioning perfectly. Denying your fatigue isn't a sign of mental toughness. It's often a psychiatric red flag that your self-awareness is currently compromised by exhaustion.
And this dynamic plays out tragically in high-stakes scenarios, particularly for mental health patients. Think about it. A patient gets treatment, and their symptoms go into remission. Next, they feel fine. And because of that broken gauge we just talked about, they vastly overestimate their health. So they dive right back into work or social obligations, completely overexerting themselves without even realizing it. The result? This leads directly to a sudden severe relapse. It's a tragic loop fueled entirely by the illusion of feeling okay.
Section 3. How to train self-insight.
Okay, so since we know our internal gauge is broken, how do we protect ourselves before we hit that breaking point? Well, we need to actively develop what Dr. Kabasawa calls self-insight ability. This is the capability to objectively observe and accurately evaluate your own physical and mental condition. Notice the word objectively there. This isn't about trusting your gut. It's about treating yourself like a science experiment and gathering cold, hard data on your own well-being.
The really great news is that you can actually train this ability. And no, it doesn't take hours of meditation. You can build self-insight step by step with this very simple daily routine. Step 1, you wake up in the morning. Step 2, you intentionally pause to check your physical and mental condition. How does your body feel? Is your mind racing? And step 3, which is the most important part, you write it down and score your condition in a daily diary.
And the scoring system is incredibly straightforward. You simply score your daily condition on a scale of 0 to 10. A 0 means you are in absolutely terrible shape, like you can barely get out of bed. A 10 means you feel absolutely perfect, firing on all cylinders. Now, most days you're probably going to fall somewhere in the middle, but the actual number you choose is way less important than the simple act of forcing your brain to quantify how you feel every single day.
The real magic of this daily practice happens over time. By writing down this 0 to 10 score daily, you create a baseline. You basically force yourself to honestly face your condition. If your normal baseline is, say, a 7, and suddenly you're logging 4s and 5s for 3 days straight, you can't lie to yourself anymore.
You can't just brush it off and say, I'm fine. The data, written in your own handwriting, is telling you that you're experiencing hidden fatigue, and it is time to pull back before you crash.
Section 4. Utilizing third-party perspectives.
But here's the catch. Self-insight isn't built overnight, and we easily fall back into overconfidence. So to protect ourselves, we really must rely on outside help. Picture a scenario that happens in doctors' offices and living rooms every single day. On one side, you have a patient aggressively stating, I'm perfectly fine, I can go back to work. On the other, you have a doctor or a family member saying, you look absolutely exhausted, you need rest. Dr. Kabasawa notes that when these two opinions clash, the third party is almost always correct. Why? Because they aren't clouded by that internal illusion of fatigue.
You absolutely must learn to proactively doubt your own feeling of being okay. The reasons for this are straightforward. We naturally lean towards overconfidence. We want to be productive, we want to be healthy. But family members, they'll notice behavioral changes, like you being a bit more irritable or sighing more often, long before you feel it internally. And doctors provide a totally objective medical baseline. Actively listening to the objective observations of the people who care about you is, quite literally, a safety net for your mental health.
If there's one ultimate takeaway to sear into your memory from all of this, it's this. Pushing through unnoticed exhaustion isn't just a symptom of a busy life, it is exactly what causes mental illness in the very first place. Mental burnout doesn't just happen overnight. It happens because we ignore the subtle signs of fatigue day after day, falsely believing our own broken internal gauge that tells us we can just keep pushing.
So to wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a crucial, potentially life-saving question to consider. Who will you ask about your health today? Seriously. Don't just trust your own brain telling you that you're fine. Start your 0 to 10 diary tomorrow morning, but today, right now, go ask someone who cares about you how they think you're doing. The answer might just save you from a crash you never saw coming. Thanks for joining me, and remember to check that gauge.